In the curated world of likes and filters, some smiles hide the darkest secrets. What you see online is rarely the full picture, and sometimes the most perfect facades conceal the most devastating betrayals. This isn't just a story about a broken heart, it's about the chilling truth behind a seemingly flawless life, and how the digital whispers can expose a monster hiding in plain sight. Just wait until you see what was truly lurking in his DMs. My name is Emily Thorne. To my millions of followers, I was the epitome of hashtag relationship goals. My life, meticulously documented across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, was a sun-drenched montage of perfect outfits, exotic travel, and a seemingly idyllic romance with my boyfriend Liam. He was handsome, charming, and always knew how to strike the perfect pose for the camera. We were the internet's favorite couple, a testament to modern love, inspiring countless DMs filled with heart emojis and aspirations. I built my brand on authenticity, on sharing my life, my joys, my struggles, and my connection with my audience was everything. I believed in transparency, in the power of shared experiences, until the very platform that built my empire became the stage for its most brutal demolition. I was the girl who had it all, the digital darling, the one who always had the right advice, the perfect caption, until the day the pixels began to bleed. It started subtly, like a glitch in a perfectly rendered image. Liam, usually so eager to create content, began to shy away from the camera. His phone, once a prop in our couple's selfies, became a guarded fortress, always face down, notifications silenced, even when we were alone. He'd disappear for hours, claiming brand meetings or creative brainstorming sessions, but his explanations felt rehearsed, lacking the genuine enthusiasm he usually had for his own burgeoning career. I'd catch him staring blankly, a distant look in his eyes, only for him to snap back, feigning exhaustion from his busy schedule. The easy banter we once shared grew strained, replaced by polite smiles for the camera and an unsettling quiet when the lens was off. Our conversations became transactional. Content ideas, engagement rates, upcoming collaborations. The intimacy, the unspoken understanding that had been the bedrock of our personal and professional partnership began to erode, pixel by painful pixel. I told myself it was the pressure of our public life, the constant scrutiny, the demands of our growing platforms, anything but the truth that flickered at the edges of my consciousness. He was becoming a stranger, a perfectly posed mannequin in our shared digital life. My gut screamed, but my public persona, the one that preached positivity and trust, fought back. I was Emily Thorne. I didn't do paranoia. I didn't do suspicion. I built communities, fostered connection. To suspect Liam, my partner in both life and content, felt like an act of self-sabotage, a betrayal of the very brand I had meticulously crafted. I'd lie awake at night, scrolling through our old posts, searching for a flicker of insincerity in his smile, a hint of deceit in his eyes. Each time, I'd rationalize it away. He was stressed. I was stressed. We were just navigating the complexities of a public relationship. The self-doubt was a suffocating blanket. Was I becoming one of those influencers, consumed by baseless jealousy, projecting my own insecurities onto a perfect relationship? The thought disgusted me. I prided myself on my strength, my independence, my ability to inspire. This gnawing uncertainty felt like a weakness, a betrayal of my own character. I tried harder, suggested new content ideas, planned surprise romantic getaways, bought him thoughtful gifts. Each effort felt hollow, met with a distracted nod or a perfunctory kiss for the camera. The distance between us widened, an invisible firewall that I desperately tried to breach, unaware that the other side had already been compromised. My followers were more than just numbers on a screen. They were my community, my extended family. We shared everything: fashion tips, life hacks, emotional support. They were the reason I woke up every day, the fuel for my creativity. I prided myself on fostering a safe, inclusive space where everyone felt seen and heard. When I shared my relationship with Liam, they embraced him, celebrated us, and became invested in our story. They were my biggest cheerleaders, my most ardent defenders. I trusted them implicitly, and in turn, they trusted me. The idea that someone, anyone, would exploit that trust, would use my platform, my community, for their own selfish gain, was unthinkable. The irony, the bitter, soul-crushing irony, would later become a physical ache in my chest. He was not just betraying me, he was betraying the very people who had uplifted us. the very community that had embraced him. He was preying on the loyalty of my audience, turning their admiration into a hunting ground for his own deceit. They were not just followers, they were victims, and I was their unwitting accomplice. The breaking point wasn't a single dramatic event. It was a series of tiny, almost imperceptible digital breadcrumbs that led to an undeniable truth. One evening, as Liam was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a notification. It was from Instagram, a DM. He'd left it face up on the nightstand, a rare oversight. My heart hammered against my ribs. The preview showed a message from a follower, a young woman named Chloe who often commented on my posts. The message read, "Hey Liam, still thinking about last night." The emoji, the casual familiarity, sent a jolt of ice through me. My rational mind tried to dismiss it. Maybe it's about a collaboration, a joke. But the image, coupled with his guarded phone, the vague excuses, the emotional distance, coalesced into a terrifying mosaic. I couldn't ignore it anymore. My hands trembled as I picked up his phone. It felt dirty, invasive, a violation of the trust I still desperately wanted to believe in. But the need for truth, for concrete proof, outweighed my discomfort. I needed to know. I needed to see. Not just for my sanity, but for the very foundation of my life, my brand, my community. I carefully opened the message, and then another, and another. The screen filled with flirtatious exchanges, plans for secret meetups, photos I never knew existed. The betrayal was a physical blow, leaving me gasping for air in my own home. I was about to confirm my worst fears, and in doing so, shatter the perfect digital life I had so carefully constructed. The first few minutes of scrolling were a blur of disbelief. Then the images began to sharpen, the words to coalesce into a horrifying narrative. Liam, my Liam, exchanging intimate messages with not just Chloe, but with Sarah from my fitness challenge group, and even Maya, one of my most dedicated Patreon supporters. He had a different persona for each of them, tailoring his charm to their perceived interests, weaving a web of lies that was both intricate and sickeningly familiar. There were screenshots of his flirtatious DMs, promising secret collaborations, exclusive content, even personal meet and greets that never involved me. There were photos of him with other women, taken in places he claimed to be alone or with male friends. My world tilted. The air left my lungs. It was real. The cracks weren't hairline anymore. They were gaping fissures, tearing through the carefully constructed facade of my life. The betrayal was a physical blow, leaving me gasping for air in my own home. I watched, numb, as the evidence piled up, each new discovery a fresh stab to my heart. This wasn't just an affair. This was a systematic exploitation of my platform, a desecration of the trust I had built with my followers. The screen flickered, and I saw a glimpse of Liam's face in one of the photos, a look of pure, unadulterated charm directed at a stranger. Not at me. Never at me. Not like that. Not anymore. The disbelief was overwhelming, followed by a cold, searing rage. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a calculated attack on my brand, my community, my very identity. As I scrolled deeper into the abyss of his DMs, a strange, unsettling pattern emerged. Several of the women he was messaging, beyond just being my followers, had something else in common. They were all involved in niche online communities related to cryptocurrency and NFTs. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that this betrayal wasn't just about a clandestine affair. There were subtle mentions of investment opportunities, exclusive access, and private groups in his conversations with these women. It looked like he wasn't just preying on their admiration for me. He was leveraging my platform, my perceived trustworthiness, to draw them into something else. The flirtation, the promises of a personal connection, they felt like bait for a larger, more complex scheme. The kiss was a dagger, but these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple infidelity, felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just my relationship. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative scale. The initial shock was a paralyzing force, freezing me in place as the digital evidence of Liam's betrayal scrolled endlessly before my eyes. It wasn't just a broken heart. It was a shattered reality, a public image built on a foundation of lies. The numbness that followed was a strange, almost merciful cloak, shielding me from the full, searing pain of his duplicity. I continued to post, to smile, to engage with my audience, all while a silent scream echoed in the hollow chambers of my chest. Every comment, every tack relationship goals tag, felt like a fresh wound, a cruel reminder of the elaborate charade he had orchestrated. The worst part was the silence. The silence of his deceit, so loud it deafened me to everything else, and the silence of my own pain, which I couldn't share with anyone, not yet. I wanted to rage, to expose him immediately, to unleash the fury of my betrayed heart. But the influencer in me, the one who understood the power of narrative, the impact of timing, knew better. An impulsive outburst would only serve to muddy the waters, to allow him to control the narrative, to paint me as the crazy ex. No. This required precision, a strategic dismantling of his carefully constructed facade. My pain began to morph into a cold, calculated resolve. This wasn't about a momentary outburst. It was about justice, about reclaiming my narrative, and about protecting my community. My platform, once a space for joy and connection, became my arsenal. I instructed my small, trusted team, my editor, Sarah, and my social media manager, Ben, to begin compiling everything. Every screenshot, every photo, every anonymous tip that had started to trickle in from my followers. I became a digital detective, meticulously cross-referencing usernames, timestamps, and locations. I learned to navigate the dark corners of his online life, to uncover the hidden profiles, the burner accounts, the encrypted messages. It was a morbid education, a masterclass in digital deception, and I was its unwilling student. Each new piece of evidence, each confirmation of his systematic exploitation of my followers, chipped away at the last vestiges of my love for Liam, replacing it with a steely determination. I wasn't just a wronged girlfriend. I was a victim of a calculated, prolonged digital assault, and he and his willing accomplices would pay dearly. My goal wasn't just to expose him. It was to dismantle his entire operation, to ensure he could never prey on anyone else again. The digital dossier grew exponentially, a damning chronicle of his manipulative tactics. We uncovered dozens of conversations, not just with my followers, but with aspiring influencers, young women eager for a break, whom he promised connections and collaborations in exchange for favors. There were screenshots of his flirtatious DMs, promising secret meetups, exclusive content, even personal mentorship sessions that always led to inappropriate advances. We found photos of him with different women, taken in various cities, often during times he claimed to be on solo business trips. The sheer scale of his deception was staggering. He had a different script for each woman, tailoring his charm to their vulnerabilities, weaving a web of lies that was both intricate and sickeningly familiar. There was one particularly vile discovery, a series of messages where he explicitly used my name, my brand, my perceived influence to lure women into his orbit. "Emily talks about you all the time," he'd write, or "I can get you on Emily's next live." It was a punch to the gut, a reminder that his happiness, his illicit conquests, were built on the very trust I had cultivated with my audience. The casual cruelty of his actions, the utter disregard for the emotional well-being of these women, fueled my resolve. This wasn't just infidelity. It was a systematic exploitation, a predatory pattern of behavior that needed to be stopped. He wasn't just a cheater, he was a digital predator, and I was gathering the evidence to hunt him down. Living this double life was a torment. Every morning I'd wake up with a knot of dread in my stomach, knowing I had to face the camera, to pretend. My content, once a source of joy and creative expression, became a chore, a performance I struggled to maintain. My smiles felt forced, my enthusiasm hollow. I avoided reading comments, fearing that any hint of my internal turmoil would be detected, that the facade would crack. My team noticed my withdrawal, my forced cheerfulness. I'd make excuses, creative block, just tired from travel. The isolation was profound. I couldn't confide in my closest friends, not yet, because Liam was so deeply integrated into my public and private life. The thought of exposing him, of tearing apart our shared digital fabric, was daunting. So I suffered in silence, a prisoner in my own curated world, haunted by the images and messages playing on a loop in my mind. The weight of his secret and my own was suffocating. I lost sleep, my appetite vanished, and the vibrant, effervescent influencer I once was began to fade. replaced by a hollowed-out version, consumed by a silent war. But within that hollowness, a new strength began to forge itself, a cold, hard resilience. I was no longer just a victim. I was a strategist, a silent warrior preparing for battle, a battle that would be fought on the very platform he had used to betray me. The initial desire for a private confrontation, for a tearful argument, had long since faded. It was replaced by something far more potent, a hunger for public justice. What would a private scene achieve? A momentary satisfaction, perhaps, but it wouldn't truly dismantle his carefully constructed web of lies, nor would it protect the countless other women he might target. No. His punishment had to fit the crime. It had to be public, undeniable, and utterly devastating to his carefully cultivated image. I wanted him to feel the same humiliation, the same exposure, the same profound loss that he had inflicted upon me and my followers. My justice wouldn't be impulsive. It would be a masterpiece of calculated digital retribution. I envisioned my feed, my stories, my live streams, becoming the stage for his undoing. The thought of his face, contorted in shock and shame as his world crumbled, became my driving force. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about surgical precision. Every screenshot, every anonymous tip, every damning photo would be woven into a narrative of his profound deceit. I would not just expose his infidelity, I would expose his true character, his manipulative tactics, his predatory nature. This wasn't just about me. It was about setting a precedent. A warning to anyone who dared to exploit trust, especially in the vulnerable world of online influence. The best revenge, they say, is living well. But sometimes, the best revenge is also ensuring that those who wronged you can no longer live well, at least not in the public eye they so desperately craved. I started to subtly test him, to see if he would crack under the slightest digital pressure. One afternoon, I posted a cryptic story on Instagram, a close-up of a lock, with the caption, "Some doors are meant to stay closed, others to be forced open." Liam, usually quick to comment on my posts, was conspicuously silent. Later, I accidentally left my laptop open on a page displaying a news article about a celebrity whose reputation had been destroyed by a social media scandal. I watched from the corner of my eye as he glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. His forced casualness, his sudden need to check his phone, were neon signs flashing his guilt. Another time, I posted a poll asking my followers, what's the most important quality in a partner, honesty or charisma? The overwhelming response was honesty. Liam, who usually voted, abstained. These small tests confirmed what the digital dossier already showed. He was deeply entrenched in his deception, and he was terrified of being caught. His fear, his paranoia, became a perverse source of strength for me. I was in control. He just didn't know it yet. Each test, each confirmation solidified my plan, adding another layer of ice to my resolve. He was walking into a digital trap, and I was the one setting it, pixel by agonizing pixel. As I delved deeper into Liam's digital footprint, a strange, unsettling pattern emerged beyond just his infidelity. Several of the women he was messaging, particularly those he was luring with promises of investment opportunities and exclusive access, were also being directed to a specific, obscure cryptocurrency platform. A platform that had recently been flagged in several online forums for suspicious activity and potential scams. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that this betrayal wasn't just about a clandestine affair. There were subtle mentions of private groups and guaranteed returns in his conversations with these women, all linked to this platform. It looked like he wasn't just preying on their admiration for me. He was leveraging my platform, my perceived trustworthiness, to draw them into something far more insidious. The flirtation, the promises of a personal connection, they felt like bait. Bait for a larger, more complex financial scheme, a crypto scam that could defraud countless unsuspecting individuals. The infidelity was a dagger, but these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple betrayal, felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just my relationship. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale. The decision to go public wasn't made lightly. It was a crucible of fear, anger, and a profound sense of responsibility. I knew the risks: the inevitable backlash, the accusations of being a crazy ex, the potential damage to my own brand. But the alternative, allowing Liam to continue his predatory behavior, to exploit more unsuspecting women, to use my platform as his hunting ground, was unthinkable. The anonymous tips from my followers, brave women who had recognized his manipulative tactics, solidified my resolve. They deserved justice. My community deserved transparency, and I deserved to reclaim my narrative. I spent days meticulously organizing the evidence: screenshots of his flirtatious DMs, photos of him with other women, audio recordings of his manipulative phone calls, and the anonymous testimonies from my followers. My team, Sarah and Ben, were initially hesitant, but once they saw the sheer volume and depravity of the evidence, their hesitation turned into fierce loyalty. We strategized, planning every post, every caption, every hashtag. This wasn't going to be a messy, emotional rant. This was going to be a surgical strike, a public dismantling of a predator delivered with the precision of a seasoned influencer. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but it was overshadowed by a burning conviction. This was bigger than me. This was about justice, about protecting my community, about transforming my pain into a powerful message of empowerment. The digital stage was set, and the curtain was about to rise on Liam's final act. The first post went live at precisely 3 p.m. EST. It was a simple, stark image, a black background with white text that read, "The truth always comes to light." No caption, no hashtags, just that ominous statement. The internet, as it always does, immediately began to buzz. My followers, accustomed to my vibrant, positive content, were confused, intrigued. Then, an hour later, the second post dropped. A carousel of screenshots, carefully redacted to protect the identities of the women, but leaving Liam's manipulative messages in full view. The caption was concise, direct. "For too long, I've presented a curated version of my life. Today, I share the truth about the man I thought I knew." The internet exploded. The comments section became a torrent of shock, disbelief, and a dawning realization. My DMs were flooded, not just with questions, but with more anonymous tips, more stories, more evidence. The third post was a video, a raw, unedited monologue from me, my voice trembling but resolute, detailing his manipulative tactics, his emotional abuse, his systematic exploitation. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply laid out the facts, cold and hard. The video went viral within minutes, shared across every platform, translated into multiple languages. My story became their story, a rallying cry for anyone who had ever been deceived, manipulated, or betrayed. The digital whispers had become a roar, and Liam's carefully constructed world began to crumble under the weight of its own lies. The backlash against Liam was immediate and merciless. His social media accounts, once teeming with adoring fans, became a cesspool of condemnation. His follower count plummeted, his comments sections filled with vitriol and accusations. Brands he had collaborated with, eager to distance themselves from the scandal, swiftly terminated their contracts. His agent dropped him. His career, which had been on the cusp of breaking into mainstream media, was destroyed in a matter of hours. He tried to issue a statement, a pathetic attempt at damage control, claiming misunderstandings and fabricated evidence. But it was too late. The internet, once his playground, had turned into his judge, jury, and executioner. My followers, armed with their own experiences and the undeniable evidence I had provided, tore his defenses apart. Every lie he uttered was met with a barrage of screenshots, every denial with a chorus of anonymous testimonies. He became a meme, a cautionary tale, a symbol of digital deception. I watched, not with glee, but with a grim satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about accountability. It was about ensuring that his manipulative tactics, his predatory behavior, would never again find fertile ground. The public had spoken, and their verdict was clear: guilty. His carefully curated image, the one he had used to deceive so many, was now irrevocably shattered, replaced by the ugly truth of his character. Amidst the storm of public condemnation, an incredible phenomenon began to unfold. An outpouring of solidarity and empowerment from my audience. My DMs, once filled with questions about fashion and beauty, were now overflowing with stories. Women from all walks of life, from every corner of the globe, shared their own experiences of betrayal, manipulation, and emotional abuse. They thanked me for my courage, for giving them a voice, for validating their pain. My comment sections, once a space for superficial praise, transformed into a powerful forum for shared healing and collective strength. Hashtags like #EmilyThornTruth and No More Manipulators trended worldwide. My follower count, far from decreasing, surged to unprecedented levels. But these weren't just numbers. They were a community, united by a shared experience, empowered by a common cause. I hosted live streams, not to promote products, but to create a safe space for discussion, for support, for collective healing. I shared resources for therapy, for legal aid, for rebuilding self-worth. My pain, once a private burden, had been transformed into a powerful message of resilience, a beacon of hope for countless others. I was no longer just an influencer. I was a leader, a voice for the voiceless, a testament to the power of truth and the strength of a united community. The transformation was profound, not just for me, but for the millions who found their own voices through mine. The immediate aftermath of the exposure was a whirlwind of media requests, interviews, and a constant stream of messages from my now even larger, more engaged audience. Liam, meanwhile, had completely disappeared from the public eye. His social media accounts were either deleted or made private, his online presence effectively erased. The silence from his end was deafening, a stark contrast to the digital storm he had unleashed. My team and I worked tirelessly, managing the influx of attention, ensuring that the narrative remained focused on empowerment and accountability, not just sensationalism. My true friends, those who had seen my pain behind the perfect facade, rallied around me, offering unwavering support and practical help. They helped me navigate the legal complexities, the media scrutiny, and the emotional toll of it all. The apartment Liam and I had shared, once a symbol of our seemingly perfect life, now felt tainted. I moved out, eager to shed every last vestige of a past that had become a lie. The process was painful, a constant reminder of the betrayal, but each step forward, no matter how small, felt like a victory. I was shedding the old skin, preparing for a new beginning, a new chapter built on authenticity and truth. The public exposure was a crucial first step, but that the true work of rebuilding, of healing, had just begun. And this time, I was building on a foundation of genuine connection, not curated illusions. As the dust settled and I began to sift through the thousands of anonymous tips and messages, a recurring detail caught my eye. Several women, beyond just reporting Liam's infidelity, mentioned a specific online gaming community. A community where Liam was not just a player, but an administrator, known by a different username. And within this community, he was allegedly running a sophisticated scam, targeting vulnerable players, promising them exclusive in-game items or rare digital assets in exchange for real money, only to disappear after receiving payment. A fleeting thought, a whisper of unease, suggested that his infidelity was not just about ego or desire. It was a distraction, a brilliant, cruel smokescreen. While he was busy charming and manipulating women on social media, he was simultaneously running a much larger, more lucrative, and far more insidious scam in the shadows of the gaming world. The flirtatious messages, the promises of personal connection, they were not just for sex. They were a psychological manipulation, designed to keep his victims off balance, to prevent them from looking too closely at his other activities. The betrayal was a dagger. But these digital breadcrumbs, these brief, unsettling glimpses into a world beyond simple infidelity, felt like a poison, slowly seeping into the very core of my being. It hinted at a deeper, more insidious betrayal, a connection I couldn't yet grasp, but one that promised to unravel far more than just his personal life. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken trust, on a much grander, more manipulative, and potentially criminal scale, and I had only just scratched the surface. The public exposure of Liam's infidelity and manipulative tactics sent shockwaves through his world. His social media presence, once a carefully curated facade, crumbled into a digital wasteland. Brands severed ties, collaborations evaporated, and his attempts at damage control were met with a relentless barrage of truth from my empowered audience. For him, it was a career-ending, reputation-destroying catastrophe. For me, the immediate aftermath was a complex tapestry of relief, exhaustion, and a profound sense of responsibility. My team and I worked tirelessly, managing the influx of media requests, the outpouring of support, and the continued flow of anonymous tips. We ensured that the narrative remained focused on empowerment, accountability, and the importance of digital safety. The apartment Liam and I had shared, once a symbol of our seemingly perfect life, now felt tainted, a constant reminder of the elaborate charade. I moved out, eager to shed every last vestige of a past that had become a lie. The process was painful, a constant excavation of emotional debris, but each step forward, no matter how small, felt like a victory. I was shedding the old skin, preparing for a new beginning, a new chapter built on authenticity and truth. The public exposure was a crucial first step, a necessary act of digital justice. But the true work of rebuilding, of healing, had just begun. And this time I was building on a foundation of genuine connection, not curated illusions. Healing, I discovered, was not a linear path. It was a winding road with unexpected detours into grief, anger, and profound sadness. The emotional scars of betrayal ran deep, but I was determined not to let them define my future. I sought professional help, engaging with a therapist who guided me through the labyrinth of shattered trust and emotional trauma. It was a difficult, often painful process, but essential for true recovery. I reconnected with old friends, those who had seen through the facade, offering unwavering support without judgment. I rediscovered passions I had long neglected, finding solace in long walks in nature, the quiet contemplation of art, and the challenge of learning a new skill. My content, once a source of immense pressure to maintain a perfect image, transformed into a platform for raw honesty and vulnerability. I shared my journey of healing, my struggles, my triumphs, and my audience responded with an overwhelming outpouring of empathy and shared experiences. My follower count continued to grow, but these weren't just numbers. They were a community, united by a shared commitment to authenticity and self-worth. I hosted live streams, not to promote products, but to create a safe space for discussion, for support, for collective healing. I shared resources for mental health, for digital literacy, for empowering women to recognize and escape manipulative relationships. My pain, once a private burden, had been transformed into a powerful message of resilience, a beacon of hope for countless others. I was no longer just an influencer. I was a leader, a voice for the voiceless, a testament to the power of truth and the strength of a united community. The transformation was profound, not just for me, but for the millions who found their own voices through mine. The public exposure had been a catalyst, forcing me to confront not just Liam's lies, but my own complicity in maintaining a facade. And in doing so, I found a deeper, more authentic version of myself. As my platform evolved, focusing more on digital safety and ethical online behavior, the anonymous tips continued to pour in. Many were about Liam, confirming his continued downfall, but a disturbing number began to coalesce around a different, more sinister pattern. The cryptocurrency platform I had glimpsed in his DMs, the one flagged for suspicious activity, kept reappearing. My team and I, now seasoned digital detectives, began to investigate. What we uncovered was far more chilling than any personal betrayal. Liam was not just running a small-time scam. He was a key player in a vast international network of online fraudsters. This network specialized in preying on vulnerable individuals, particularly young women, luring them with promises of quick wealth through fake crypto investments, or by exploiting their desire for connection and influence. The flirtatious messages, the promises of personal mentorship, the seemingly innocent requests for personal information, they were all part of a sophisticated phishing operation. The exclusive access he promised was access to a fraudulent platform designed to steal their money and their digital identities. The women he had targeted from my follower base were not just victims of his infidelity. They were targets of a meticulously planned financial and identity theft scheme. The affair, I realized with a sickening lurch, was a brilliant diversion, a smokescreen. While he was busy charming and manipulating women on social media, he was simultaneously running a much larger, more lucrative, and far more insidious scam in the shadows of the gaming world and beyond. He wasn't just a cheater. He was a criminal, a digital con artist who had used my platform, my trust, and my community as his unwitting accomplice to defraud countless individuals. The depth of his depravity was staggering, far beyond a simple affair. This wasn't just about a broken heart. It was about a broken law, a calculated conspiracy that had used my emotional devastation as its ultimate shield. And the true mastermind behind it all, the one pulling the strings, was still out there, hidden in the digital shadows. Suddenly, every seemingly innocuous detail, every fleeting moment of unease, coalesced into a terrifyingly clear picture. The way Liam's phone was always guarded? Not just hiding texts from other women, but coordinating illicit transactions and managing his scam network. The vague excuses for his whereabouts? Not just secret rendezvous, but meetings with his co-conspirators, planning their next digital heist. The subtle mentions of investment opportunities and private groups in his DMs? They weren't just flirtatious banter, they were coded invitations to his fraudulent schemes. The women he targeted, particularly those interested in crypto and NFTs, they weren't just random conquests. They were carefully selected marks, chosen for their digital literacy and their potential susceptibility to financial manipulation. The hints I had dismissed as mere red flags of infidelity were, in fact, breadcrumbs leading to a vast criminal enterprise. He had used my platform, my perceived trustworthiness, to gain access to a vulnerable audience. He had leveraged my influence, my brand, to legitimize his fraudulent activities. My public exposure of his infidelity, while satisfying in its own right, had inadvertently served his purpose, diverting attention from the true crime. He had played me, my followers, and the entire online community like puppets on a string, all for the ultimate prize: illicit wealth and digital power. My initial triumph felt hollow, replaced by a cold, simmering rage at his audacity, his manipulative genius. He hadn't just cheated on me, he had used me, exploited my trust, and turned my life into a stage for his criminal enterprise. But now I had the evidence. I had the true blueprint of his digital deception. And this time, my retribution would be far more devastating, far more permanent. The game wasn't over. It had just entered a new, far more dangerous phase, one that would expose not just Liam, but the entire network of digital predators he belonged to. I closed my laptop, the screen reflecting my own determined gaze. The silence in my new apartment was profound, heavy with the weight of newly discovered truths. My heart, once broken, now beat with a chilling resolve. They thought they had won. They thought they had gotten away with it. But they had underestimated me. They had underestimated the power of a woman scorned, and the collective strength of a community united. And they had forgotten one crucial detail. In the digital world, nothing truly disappears. Every click, every message, every transaction leaves a trace, and some secrets, once unearthed, refuse to stay buried. They fester, they twist, and they will always, always find their way back to the surface. Because the real game, the one they never saw coming, has only just begun. And this time, there will be no escape. Not for Liam, not for his network, not for anyone involved. The blueprint for their digital destruction is now complete, and I'm ready to expose every single line of code. Are you ready to see what happens when the truth goes viral?